if you had to compare the challenges between getting into a 2D game like Street Fighter 5 or Third Strike or whatever, and a 3D game like Tekken, what are the specific challenges between 2D and 3D?
Well, I mean, in 2D, like the obvious thing is like there's a lot less to learn. Like there's a lot less moves generally per character, so there's a lot less like knowledge checks in a way. Like getting like I've experienced this right now in Soul Calibur. Like getting into a new 3D fighting game, there is so much you need to know before you can really play the game. Do you know what I mean? Like if some guy's just doing a plus and block move on you and just rinsing frame traps, but you don't notice, you're just gonna lose over and over again. So in 3D games, there's a lot more knowledge checks you have to know before you can really start learning how to play the neutral aspect, how to apply mind games, offense, stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, I came from a 2D background, so I already understood some like the very universal concepts like frame trapping, spacing a little bit. So I had that knowledge going to Tekken. So it's just a matter of translating that into the third dimension, essentially.
Yeah. And like anyone else you want to chime in on like comparing the difficulties between 2D and 3D?
I'm completely disinterested in 2D, unfortunately, but it is an interesting point that there is a language, to fighting games. There's a whole lot of terminology, and like Selena said, it's different in Japan and abroad, and then it's obviously different across games as well. And so talking about like the concept of a combo, just something as simple as that is extremely different if you're looking at like, I don't know, Ultimate, Killer Instinct or Tekken. So I guess that might be one big challenge, because you start as a new player. I think most people now get hooked because they look at content relating to the game and you're listening to commentary or whatever, and it's just all of these terms that probably sound like a completely different language unless you know them.
Tap him on the leg. Up 4-3. Good call out right there.
So I guess, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I just listened to it so much that I started understanding what everything referred to from context. But there's no universal like fighting game dictionary either. Like people have been saying to me in my comments like that I should refer to while standing as while rising. That's a debate as old as time in Tekken as well.
Semantics, yeah.
So the language is a big challenge, I think, especially for new people.
Yeah. I personally like, because I tried to learn Third Strike and Tekken 5 like around the same kind of time, and Third Strike is often cited as being one of the harder Street Fighter games or 2D games to play, but I found it much easier to get into, mainly because, as Fergus was saying, there weren't so many knowledge checks. Like I felt like I could get to the meta of the game much more quickly. Whereas with Tekken, I felt there were these constant barriers between me playing fundamentals-based Tekken. And for me, getting into Tekken at first, that was the most frustrating thing. It's like, why are you giving me all this homework to do? Can I just go home and play? That's really how I felt. Yeah, I mean, Selena, comparing Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7, like, what are the different challenges for you?
For me, it's simply, I'm probably not very good at 2D fighting games because compared to 3D fighting games, they don't give you much option of escaping from your opponent. Whereas in Tekken, you could sidestep, and there are more options of you getting away from your opponent. So that really made it easy for me to get into Tekken compared to other 2D fighting games.
See, that's why I find it easier, because in Street Fighter, your options are limited, but that's why it's simple. Like, you can either mash out, you can either block, or do a random DP. Like at higher levels, you can do like option selects and stuff like that. But generally, but in Tekken, there's so much to factor in. Like, there's this move Crush. Can I sidestep it? Can I backdash it? But yeah, I can see how having more options can be easier as well. Spag,
last time I was on the show, what I said, the reason I loved the game was because of what Selena said, is because there's always an option, right? So I mean, Ryan Hart touched upon as well, is that you have, if you died in a certain situation, if you analyze it, if you slow it down, you say, hey, if I did this in this situation, I could have got out of it. Whereas I think in some 2D games, I'm not naming any 2D games in particular, but some 2D games, I feel like in a certain situation, it was just a 50-50, and it's like, cool, like you just guessed wrong. Many times it's like, I just didn't guess right. You know, there was not much you could do. Maybe you could have backdash, but for Tekken, it's like, okay, you could sidestep left, sidestep right, sidewalk left, sidewalk right, backdash. You can sidestep left and duck, sidestep right and duck. I mean, there's so many little things you could do. You know, even using your move in defense, you know, using a magic 4 or a jab, and you know, just so many things you could do. And I think when you break it down and you explain it to someone, which is what I have been doing in the past, you know, week. I've been doing these analysis videos, and I've been talking to people on my stream and saying, hey, you know, if you do this in this situation, or this is why this person died here, it breaks it down and people can understand it and get their head around it. So yeah, I think I really like that about the game as well. It is, of course, like the more options obviously is more complicated, but when you break it down, I think people will understand it and it wouldn't be too hard to comprehend.